Hey everybody, welcome back to the Sideline Crowd. Skylar Timmons here, and today I'm joined by a special guest. I met him while I was working with the Orem Owls last summer. He was one of the opposing team broadcasters. Today I'm joined by Kyle Kercheval. Kyle, thank you so much for joining us. How you doing?
Tyler, thanks for having me, man. Great to be here. Great to be here.
So, I guess for people that don't know you, tell us a little bit about yourself. Why am I talking to you?
Well, that's a good question. Yeah, like you said, we first met when I was in Orem as the play-by-play broadcaster for the Grand Junction Rockies. So that's my most recent gig. But as you know, there's not a lot of minor league baseball happening right now. In fact, there's no minor league baseball happening right now.
Yeah.
So that unfortunately is not happening this summer. But yeah, that's I guess what I'm known for, if you will, as the play-by-play guy for the GJ Rocks in the Pioneer League. So yeah, got to meet you last year, and I'm glad to be talking with you.
Yeah. And I know that was probably, I was super envious of you kind of right off the bat because, we're both Colorado kids
Yeah.
and both fans of the Rockies. And so, like, you kind of had my dream job just sitting there. I'm like, man, that's where I want to be. You know?
You got to work with Michael Broskowski. I'm like, can you get any better than that, though? I mean, come on.
Yeah, that was the fun part is like,
Yeah,
our other friend Quentin Denny, who's
of
part of the
course.
Sideline Crowd,
Yeah.
getting to know Michael and hanging out with him. And I think that was our favorite part is, hanging out with Michael, but then hanging out with these other guys in the booth that were coming through. I think you were probably one of our favorites.
Oh, good. Well, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, well, there's only 8 teams in the league. So, like, if you're not one of the favorites, then, but yeah, no, it was, I loved coming to Orem. You guys were great. And really everywhere in the Pioneer League was awesome. Last year was my first professional gig, my first year in the Pioneer League. And so, it was great getting to not only go to all these new towns and follow the team, but to meet everyone else like you who's just, getting started in their careers and trying to find their way in this crazy industry of professional baseball. But yeah, I really enjoyed coming to Orem, and I looked forward to it. I mean, once I knew that you guys had the hot dog mac and cheese thing going, the mac and cheese hot dog, I was like, okay, well, this place is automatically one of my favorites. I don't care who works here. They've got the mac and cheese hot dog. So that's really important.
Yeah, we had our secret menu going. I know we're making up all kinds of weird combinations and stuff.
I was honored to be told of the secret menu. I don't know a lot of the In-N-Out secret menu, but I do know the Orem Owls secret menu.
Yeah.
That's really where it counts.
That's really what we were hired to do, is just create a
Exactly.
secret
Yeah. Great media relations, really.
menu. Yeah. We got to drive those concession sales. That's how you make money.
There you go.
But yeah, so like you coming through as the broadcaster for the Rockies, kind of that your first professional gig, so to speak. And I want to kind of ask you a little bit about that history. What got you into broadcasting, and kind of what was your journey like?
Oh man, it's it's still new. It's still new. We're still in the first few chapters, hopefully. But I'm fortunate in that I was one of those guys that always knew what they wanted to do growing up. I mean, as soon as I was 11 or 12 years old, I knew I wanted to be a baseball broadcaster. But play-by-play for the Colorado Rockies was then and remains, life goal 1A. So I was so thankful to get a chance to work with Grand Junction, not only for the opportunity that it is in minor league baseball, but because it was a part of that Rockies organization. But I guess you can say my broadcasting career started out in high school when I started doing high school games and started a broadcasting club. I went to Legend High School out here in Parker, and it opened in 2008. So it was a relatively new school when I was passing through. So I kind of got a chance to help start up some new fresh ideas when it was sort of in the early phases. But I mean, I can remember going back to, like I said, those 10, 11, 12-year-old days where me and my cousin, who actually lives out in Highlands Ranch, I live in Parker, we started a Madden franchise on the PlayStation 2. And of course, we created ourselves and made a team, and we were in the game. And so we always had fun playing that. Every time we came together, someone would bring the memory card over, the good old days of video. And so we'd play, and we'd have hours of fun, and we just created this make-believe world. But he'd have to go home, and we still wanted to play. And so what would we do? Well, I'd get on the PlayStation and I would play these games, and I would broadcast over the phone for like 2 hours these fake Madden football games. And I would come up with fake sponsors, and I would come up with these ads and just do all of this prep for something that was totally meaningless, but it was so much fun. And I was like, wow, I could actually do this as a career, like that's not bad. And people, people other than my cousin on the other line would actually listen, like that'd be great.
Mhm.
So that's sort of where it all started for me. And like I said, that's when I knew I wanted to do it. But I ended up going to Arizona State after high school, went to the Cronkite School, had so much fun there. Just great staff, great students, a fantastic 4 years down in Phoenix. And in those 4 years, got the chance to spend 2 summers in the Cape Cod Baseball League, which was just so much fun. I mean, aside from the broadcasting and everything, I mean, you get to spend 2 summers in Cape Cod. I mean, it's tough to beat that, right? So I spent 2 summers, my sophomore summer, my junior summer, calling Born Braves games. The first year I was the sideline reporter. The second year I hopped into the booth as the one of the play-by-play guys. So that was really my first big-time exposure. I did some stuff at ASU. I did a lot of stuff with ASU hockey. But really, the beginning of my baseball career, if you will, started in Bourne. So after that, graduated college, and then was fortunate enough to get the chance in Grand Junction. I mean, the team has been in Grand Junction since 2012, and I was the second play-by-play guy. Adam Spillane had been there for the beginning of the franchise there, and so I had some big shoes to fill, and it was a really cool opportunity. And I can remember going to those games as a fan back in high school and in middle school, and going to those games, or I guess it would just be in high school, but going and being like, wow, I would love to work here. I had family on the Western Slope. It would have been perfect. And sure enough, everything sort of fell into place. And I was so lucky to get that opportunity officially last summer.
Yeah. And I love that, how you can just hear the passion that you have for broadcast, because a lot of you're saying is stuff I've been doing when I was a kid. I remember, playing baseball in high school. I would stand out in center field, like during practice or something, and just be broadcasting to myself because, baseball outfielders, they get pretty bored out there. There's nobody to talk to.
It's what we do. It's what we do. Yeah, no, for sure. And I played baseball for 2 years in high school, but I knew I was never going to play collegiately. It was never good to, actually make it. So I guess it was good I had that, broadcast plan in my back pocket. But yeah, I mean, I think you have to have passion if you want to make it in this industry. And I appreciate you saying that. But I mean, I don't know how you can make it in sports journalism as a whole, especially in baseball where you're playing, 150 plus games a year. Like, you have to love it. You have to be into it. And so I think that's one of the coolest things about going to all those different cities, like you mentioned, seeing the opposing broadcasters. And you have these people from all over the country who, regardless of their backgrounds, care so deeply about what they're doing and love doing what they're doing. And, the minor leagues can be a grind. I mean, we only play 76 games in the Pioneer League, but even that can feel like a lot sometimes. And if you're not truly invested and your heart is not in it 100%, it would be rough. But fortunately, I love it. And every day, I got to hit record on the laptop, man. It's so exciting. I never got sick of it.
Yeah, and that's kind of the way I was. Even as just an intern, I was a media broadcasting intern, so I was just running our live stream.
Sure.
I just happened into that. Funny story of how I got that. We showed up on game day, so opening day for the Owls. We open up the booth and we're gonna help out with cameras or something. And the guy for the Owls that's supposed to run the switchboard, he's like, "Oh, I got to get out of here, guys. You guys got it? Because I got to go. My hip is hurting. I can't do this anymore." And just leaves. And so we're just kind of thrown into this.
Good luck. Yeah.
Like, run the broadcast. And then the assistant GMS is like, where's so-and-so? And we're like, he left. She's like, what?
I don't know.
And so then it just fell into that. And
trial by fire.
Yeah, like that same thing of just this grind of, I was only going to home games, but still that grind of coming back every day. I still loved it, coming to the ballpark every single day. It kind of rekindled a love of baseball for me, because I was that same thing of like, I didn't really have the opportunity to play in college. I probably could have somewhere, but it just didn't work out, and injuries and whatnot. But
sure.
Keeping that passion, I think, through broadcasting has kept that love of baseball alive. For me, I don't know if it's kind of helped you in that aspect at all.
100%. Yeah. And it's definitely given me sort of a new take on things. I mean, once you go from being a fan and a player to the broadcasting side, I mean, I think it's so important to always keep that fan in you. And that's my shtick as a broadcaster. I try to do my best Vin Scully and be like, your grandpa, or I guess for me, like your buddy on the other side of the headset, just chatting with you about the game. And that's, I think you really need to keep that. But definitely as a broadcaster, you look at it from a little more professional perspective, if you will, and that's fine. I have no issues with that, of course. But yeah, you have to keep that spirit that you had as a coach or a player or a big fan, whatever it is. You have to keep that, or else it's just people can tell. People can tell if you're on the air and you're not into it, and you don't want to be that guy that forces somebody who loves the game to turn it off because you sound like you're talking about a funeral. No one wants to hear that. So if you don't have that passion and that excitement and that fan down in your heart, then I mean, what are you doing it? Why are you doing it?
Yeah, and it's probably gets a lot harder, when it's kind of a blowout loss. You're down 10-0 in the 7th inning, and you got a position player on the mound. I'm sure that's difficult to kind of get through.
It's different, that's for sure. Yeah, it's one of those things where we didn't have if I can recall, we didn't have too many blowouts in the Cape Cod League. I don't know, maybe I was just so fresh and naive. Everything was just like, yay, like I don't care that it's 12-0 in the 3rd inning and it's pouring rain. Like, but no, it was, I mean, fortunately, when you get to the Pioneer League, you're at least sitting in a booth. At Cape Cod, you weren't really doing that, so the elements aren't really a factor anymore. But I guess it can get tough, yeah. But it's one of those things where that's part of it, and you have to find ways to love that. And it's sort of a new challenge. How do I get these fans listening that are like, why on earth am I listening to this 8-0 Pioneer League game? Like, why do I care? You got to give them a reason to care, and that's why you've got your stories in the back, and you've got all these different things to talk about, and it's sort of a new challenge. So I kind of like it sometimes, but yeah, it does. It can get tough, especially when it's game 65 and it's 104 degrees outside, and you're like, what am I doing?
Yeah, you're going up against the Ogden Raptors, who are just hitting the ball all over the field, and
Exactly. Yeah, Justin Yurchek is hitting 435, and it's the 14th game of the year. Yeah,
yeah.
I understand.
So you mentioned like kind of telling those stories and gathering with the team. I wanted to ask, like, what was it like, being a fan of the Rockies and kind of being there in the nitty gritty, the trenches of the minor league system at their base level with the Rockies? What was that like for you as a fan to kind of be among these guys who could be future big leaguers with the Rockies?
Oh, it was so much fun. And one of the hardest things as a broadcaster, especially when you come in as a big fan, is you have to remember you're a broadcaster. People get all excited and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm around, the top prospect, whatever. And I guess that was there for a little bit, but after a while, I think as everyone starts to realize they're just kids, they're like me trying to make their way, they don't think of themselves most of the time. They don't think of themselves as this hot shot guy. They're just trying to make it. But yeah, as a Rockies fan, it was great to be, like you said, down in the trenches and starting to see these guys, right when they start their careers. I mean, you can go back throughout not even Grand Junction Rockies history, but go back to Casper. I mean, all the names that came through there, the Arenados, the Stories, and the David Dahls, and, the Brendan Rodgers, John Gray, like those guys all started there. And so to be there and be like, wow, I could be witnessing, the next star or whatever is, awesome just as a fan, but part of the whole minor league experience as a whole. Like, that's the coolest part about the minors, and getting to be in those trenches and see those guys start off as these wide-eyed kids that, are just like scarfing down some Taco Bell after the game and then coming out and playing. You're just like, this is so great. Like, it's so pure, they're just out here having fun and trying to make their way. And so it was so much fun, and I was fortunate. We didn't. Michael Tolia didn't come to Grand Junction last year, so we didn't get to see the Rockies' first-round pick last year. But there were some great names on the list. Getting to watch guys like Brenton Doyle and Colin Simpson and Christian Koss, and even those guys that are those late picks, or the international guys that you look for a bio for this dude, and he's 17 years old, and there's like 3 sentences of information on him, and it's where he's from, what he hit in the Dominican Summer League, and that's about it. And you're like, okay, well, we'll find out what this guy does, and you be right on the cutting edge of all that. So super fun, not only from a broadcaster's perspective, but from a fan's perspective. It was great.
Yeah, I kind of remember those. We started a podcast with the Owls that we were doing, and we were interviewing some of the players. And I remember the kind of those first times interviewing them, we were a little like, oh man, like this is so and so. They're a top prospect for the Angels. Yeah. But then I remember looking at like the roster list and all the ages, and like I think I was older than all but one player.
Exactly.
and I was 23 at the time.
Yep.
So I'm like
Yeah.
feeling really old, but I think getting that starstruck and just remembering that they're kids, they still have a long way to go.
Yeah.
But it is that fun part of it.
For sure. And for me, I'm 24, so I'm your age, and it's crazy. I think I'm young, just starting out, and then you've got Ezekiel Tovar that just turned 18 in the middle of the year, and you're like, man, like, am I that old? Like, I don't
Yeah.
think I am, but of course, I stand at 5 foot nothing, so I'm walking around, and everyone's 18 years old, and I'm looking up to them. But yeah, I certainly didn't feel old, but it looked young, that's for sure.
Yeah. And that's the fun part of when you aren't able to when you have to give up those dreams of being a player, and so you move into other things and looking at these guys like, man, he's living the dream of what I wanted to do at
Yeah, and I
18.
look at him, I'm like, oh, so that's why I didn't make it. Yeah, that's right. It all makes sense now.
So you're talking about being in the minor leagues, and unfortunately, like we mentioned before, uh, the season officially canceled earlier last week or so. Uh, and unfortunately, like mentioned, you're not in Grand Junction right now due to that.
Yep.
And so I kind of want to talk about just kind of those feelings of kind of coming to those decisions or hearing those decisions of not being able to have the season this year and not be able to be broadcasting games.
Yeah, it's tough. It's definitely tough. And I'm really fortunate that I got to spend last summer in Grand Junction and do that full season. And it's sort of a blessing and a curse because, yeah, I got to experience that season and I did get to, dip my toe in it. And that's great. But at the same time, it's like, wow, I figured out all these things I want to improve on and all these new things I want to implement and all this new stuff. And you come in with all these new aspirations and it just sort of doesn't happen, which of course in any industry is tough. And the last few months have certainly been, I can't say emotional roller coaster because I think the emotions have sort of leaned one way, and it was really, it was not depressing, but it was just like it always sort of felt like a ticking time bomb because I think the way that most people in the industry and people that follow the game looked at it was, well, if we haven't heard anything by now, we're not having a season. And so it was, you're kind of wearing these two hats where on one side on social media, it's like, yeah, we're getting ready for baseball and, Trivia Tuesday, woo. And you're trying to get people excited and into it. And at the same time, it's like you're stuck internally like, is this really going to happen? Like, I don't know. I feel like I'm leading people on. And so it was really weird. But I was fortunate to have so much support from people in the organization and obviously from friends and family that, I could vent to and to talk the situation about. And, my parents got plenty of phone calls from me just being like, I don't know what's going on. Like, it's just being all worried. But, it is what it is. And it was tough, but it in so many ways, it was out of our hands. It's certainly out of my hands. And so I've learned so much about this industry, and obviously this is not something I thought I'd be learning so soon or having to learn at all. But it's one of those things where you just have to say, you know what, I'm going to go with the flow. It is what it is. Broadcasting and baseball always finds a way to rebound and to come back. And, it's been there through everything. And it may not be this year. It may not be next year, but we're going to be back. And, hopefully we're looking back 10 years from now and being like, man, that really sucked. But some really good stuff came out of it. So that's what I'm banking on. And I'm trying to look on the bright side and of what is really a sad situation altogether. But it kind of is what it is at this point. And like I said, hopefully we're back to some level of normalcy as the minor leagues go sooner than later.
Yeah, and unfortunately, it gets even harder knowing that Grand Junction and the rest of the Pioneer League are kind of on the chopping block.
Yeah.
For that proposal from MLB, and that's kind of the heartbreaking part of, Grand Junction is a great baseball town,
Yeah.
and the threat of them not being able to have that team there anymore, or in the form that it is now, is kind of be really tough.
Sure. Yeah. And it was crazy going from, in the beginning of February being like, yeah, 2021 is, kind of the question mark. And that was sort of our biggest concern, and then it turned into, well, are we even going to get this season in? It was sort of, it was sort of impending doom at the end of the tunnel. And all of a sudden you were at the end of the tunnel and it was like, wait, what? Like, we weren't supposed to be dealing with this. And so, yeah, it is tough. And, obviously we got so many questions from fans and people wanting answers. And it was so heartbreaking to not have answers for these fans, for these season ticket holders and these sponsors that have been with the team since day one. And they're coming to us being like, hey, what's going on? We want to know what the future looks like because we really care about this. And to be in the position we were and to say, we don't know, really sucked, and it was like people feel like you're hiding information from them, and we're not. Like we truly don't know. And people would ask, well, how can we, when will you know? How can we learn more? And it was like, read the news, watch the news. Like as soon as you see something, we're seeing it as well. So like we're all in the same boat here. Hopefully we find out sooner than later, but that's all we can tell you. But yeah, as far as 2021 goes, I mean, that's, like you said, baseball in Grand Junction is just huge. You've got the Junior College World Series. Obviously, Colorado Mesa just has a fantastic program there. So we're so fortunate to have so much great baseball in Colorado, especially in the Western Slope. And it would be really, really a shame to see that affiliation go away, or to have there be no team at all. But the hope is that there is going to be something will get figured out, and hopefully as time goes on, the powers that be will have a chance to realize how important these minor league teams are to their communities. I mean, I can just speak for Grand Junction and for the Pioneer League because that's where I've been, but I've got buddies all throughout minor league baseball that their communities support them so much, and they are the lifeblood of that summer in that town. And so to see that go away would be a real shame. So, I'm keeping my fingers crossed and I'm trying to be hopeful. But like I said, it's out of our hands, and, we'll see what happens. So hopefully good things come in the future here.
Yeah, definitely. All righty. And that's kind of the same boat I'm in. Is like, it's hard, but you just got to really wait and see what happens. It's the beautiful thing about baseball is you never know what will happen. Anything can happen. And so who knows, maybe we see Grand Junction, they do get cut, maybe move on to a big independent baseball league. Who knows?
Yeah, that's kind of the way we got to look at it. And, like you said before we, started recording, like you just got to go with the flow. It's kind of all we can do right now. And, these side projects, the stuff you've got going on and the stuff that everyone's got going on. Everyone's doing podcasts and trying to stay in the loop. And I think that's what we can do. We try to hone our skills and keep trying to work on it while we can. But yeah, it definitely stinks to be entering this industry right when it's hitting, this brick wall of chaos that, I didn't really anticipate coming out of Arizona State being like, yay, baseball. And it's a little different now. But like I said, we'll see what happens.
Yeah. All right. We're running out of time here.
Cool.
But I did want to kind of, at least for this interview portion, and then we'll do your moments thing real quick.
Sure.
But something I wanted to ask is kind of your thoughts on the moving directions over to the MLB season. You being a Rockies fan just like me, how are you feeling about this 60-game season? What are you excited for? Any bold predictions for the year?
Man, I don't know. We're living in a topsy-turvy world right now. 60 games. Matt Kemp is on the Rockies.
Yeah.
Like, I don't really know what to think anymore. Like, I don't know. Is Todd Helton going to be back out there? Like, I don't know what. I read somewhere, and maybe this was just a total joke, but like the Giants might sign Barry Bonds to reset his Hall of Fame eligibility. And I was just like, wait, what? Like, and it would be one of those things that I'd normally be like, oh, that's not true. But like, given everything that's gone on, I'm like, who knows? Maybe that is true. But I don't know. I think a lot of people, especially the Rockies fans, they sort of dread that June swoon for Colorado. And with these 60 games, and we're already in July, like maybe there is no June swoon. So like, I don't know, maybe things are looking super up this year for the Rockies. But I think there's still a lot of logistical things, Major League Baseball and everybody needs to get past. There's so many names. I mean, David Price, Nick Markakis just a little bit ago saying, that they're opting out of the season, and they've been having the issues with the testing in Oakland and I think somewhere else. So, we need to get through that for sure. And we want to make sure that the players, the coaches, and all the staff are safe. And that's priority number one. But presuming we do have baseball and everything, man, it's been great to see Herman Marquez out there throwing on the mound. And even if he's almost hitting Arenado in the head, that's okay. Like, it's just great to see everybody back out there. And Coors Field having people in baseball again is just such a great sight to see. And I mean, the town would love to see it. So hopefully, I think if we get fired up here, who knows what can happen in a 60-game season. I mean, it's crazy to look back at history and be like, wow, the team that finished with 80 wins last year had 40 wins after the end of 60 games. Like, anything can happen. So maybe this is the first year the Rockies find a way to win the division because it's just so chaotic and, anything can happen. But I don't know. We'll see. I'm just hoping for some baseball. I hope it's safe. I hope it's fun. And I hope we don't look back on this year with some giant asterisk that is all negative. Like, I just want to have fun. Let's just play some baseball. And, if everything logistically works out, then let's just make the most of it and enjoy it. Like, what more can we ask for?
Yeah. I just want to watch Nolan Arenado just field some balls, hit some dingers, and
please, yes. Oh my gosh, that would be great.
And please stay in with the Rockies.
That would be ideal. That would be ideal for sure. And for these young guys too, guys that might not have even gotten a chance. I mean, who knows who's going to get a chance to pitch this year or to play? I mean, let's throw Ryan Rollison out there a little bit. I don't know. Let's just see what happens. Like, I'm down for it. At this point, anything can happen. If Matt Kemp is playing for the Rockies, throw in the 20-year-olds. I don't care. Let's just play. Just go crazy.
Yeah, and I think that'd be fantastic. I'm really excited. Who knows? Maybe the Rockies can take a shot at it. Who knows?
You never know. You never know. That's the cool thing about baseball.
I keep telling one of my buddies who's a Dodgers fan, because David Price just opted to sit out.
Yep.
And I was like, man, I would just laugh. Or it'd be my favorite thing if just Mookie Betts decided to opt out for the season. That would be so great.
That would be wild. Yeah, and then he signs somewhere else next year. That would be wild. But yeah,
because
I don't know. Who knows?
I don't want to see what he does at Coors Field for 60 games.
But it's okay. Matt Kemp is in a Rockies uniform now, so that's a guaranteed like 450 average for 60 games. Easy. 30 bombs, no problem. No problem.
Who knows? We'll see.
Back to MVP Matt Kemp. It's coming. Just wait.
Hey, he doesn't have to play the field. He can just DH. So
it's perfect. That's right.
All righty. Well, Kyle, thank you so much for joining me for this little interview portion.
Yeah.
I appreciate you taking the time, chat with me a little bit, and I love the work that you do, and you're a great guy. I think that's the best thing that you can get from meeting you is just that love and passion and upbeat attitude you have for baseball and everything. And I think it's very infectious and something that everybody needs to remember, especially broadcasters. And I think people working in the game is remember to have that love of the game, like you were talking about.
I really appreciate it, Scott. Thanks so much. And likewise, I mean, it's great to see everything you've been doing, and it's great to see Quentin's name out there again, and you guys are doing great stuff. So keep up the good work, and thank you so much for having me. It's been great.